Yes, sir.
So, all right. All right. So I want to call to order our regional commission, the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission meeting for this afternoon. And of course, we'll have the opening statement, our authorization. I'll ask Phil to do his usual duty to read that. And afterwards, after he does that, Wayne, if you would call the roll, please. So,
Yes, sir.
Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to the City of Roanoke emergency ordinance adopted by the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission on April 23rd, 2020, and 2021 General Assembly legislation, Senate Bill 1271, passed on February 27th, 2021. The June meeting of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission will be held virtually by Zoom on Thursday, June 24th, 2021 at 3 p.m. Under the current state of emergency and until further notice, it has been deemed unsafe to assemble a quorum of a public body in one place. Any members of the public may view and participate in the meeting through electronic means. Meeting details are listed on the second page of the agenda. All materials made available to the members will be made available to the public at the same time by posting on the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission website. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Wayne, if you would, please.
Ms. Cox, Mr. Lanford, Ms. Vanisdahl, Mr. Clinton,
Here.
Ms. Henderson, Mr. LaRue, Mr. Billy Martin,
Here, sir.
Mr. Collins, Mr. Spence, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Carter, Mr. Whitlow, Mr. Enslow, Ms. Smith,
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Here.
Mr. Hutchins, Mr. Dean Martin,
Here.
Mr. Radford,
Here.
Mr. North,
Here.
Mr. Osborne, Mr. Osborne, Ms. Onitis, Mr. Tucker,
Here.
Mr. Bestbich,
Here.
Ms. Moon Reynolds,
Here.
Dr. Stanko Downey,
Here.
Mr. Jeffrey, Mr. Gusler, Mr. Velosan, Mr. Wallace,
Present.
Mr. Saunders,
Here.
Ms. King, Mr. Unruh,
Here.
Mayor Marshall,
Here.
Mr. Newbill, Mayor Gross,
Here.
Mr. Peters. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank all you folks for attending. We were just talking earlier, it's really a beautiful day, but we do have an important meeting this afternoon. So I thank you for your attendance. Next item is the consent agenda. Today it contains the approval of the agenda and our minutes for the May 27th meeting, as well as the financial reports, which can be found on page 17 through 20. Are there any additions or corrections to the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Okay, I think I heard a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Martin, was that you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right. Well, Wayne, do we have to call the roll on this or?
Yes, sir. We will have to call a roll for this last meeting. I mean, it'll be better come July 1st.
Thank goodness.
All right. Mr. Clinton,
Aye.
Mr. Martin, Billy Martin,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Dean Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Bestbich,
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds,
Aye.
Dr. Stanko Downey,
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Saunders,
Aye.
Mr. Unruh,
Yes.
Mayor Marshall,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes,
The motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, sir. Okay, I've got a few remarks this afternoon, somewhat lengthy, so hope you'll bear with me. First item is on April 3rd, 2019, Governor Northam signed into law chapters 837 and 846 of the 2019 Acts of Assembly, and that established the Interstate 81 Corridor Improvement Program. The legislation created the I-81 Corridor Improvement Fund, and it also established an I-81 committee to provide advice and recommendations to the CTB regarding the development of the Corridor Improvement Program. During the June 2019 Regional Commission meeting, I appointed Commission Member Bill Bestpitch to represent the Commission on the I-81 committee. Since Mr. Bestpitch will be leaving the Commission on June 30th, I would like to at this time appoint Mr. Phil North to replace Mr. Bestpitch. And Bill, thank you very much for your service and the time you devoted to that very important committee. We appreciate it very much. Item number 2, with the end of the Commonwealth state of emergency on June 30th, the Regional Commission will return to in-person meetings for all meetings held after July 1. We will continue to monitor state and federal guidance concerning social distancing, masking, and vaccination rates to determine if future meetings will need to be held at locations other than the Regional Commission boardroom. Obviously, the issue there is just depending upon what guidelines are in place and whether or not we have enough room to do that. So the lifting of the state emergency also means an end to remote participation by commission members in our public meetings, except under very limited circumstances, including an illness by a board member, or if a board member's primary residence is 60 or more miles away from the meeting location. Such remote participation is limited to 4 times a year and requires notification and approval by the chair prior to the meeting. Item 3, the Regional Commission's annual trip to the Salem Red Sox game is set for Wednesday, September 1st. Woohoo, I'm glad. The event is for commissioners and their guests, as well as the commission staff. The staff is sending out a save the date notice very soon. And late this summer, Virginia Mullen will be sending a notice asking each commission member if they plan to attend and how many guests they'll be bringing to the game. That will allow us to let Salem know how many tickets we need and how much food should be prepared. So I just want to let Salem know how much we appreciate the city once again hosting us at the Salem Red Sox game. That's always a good time, so I hope you'll make an effort to attend. And we certainly appreciate Salem. They've done this for several years now, so thank you very much, City of Salem. Item 4, the Regional Commission is pleased to welcome Mr. William Long III to its staff. Mr. Long holds a Master of Urban and Regional Planning from Virginia Tech and a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from North Carolina State University. He was previously a transportation planner for the Rock Hill, Fort Mill TPO in South Carolina, and most recently worked for Total Action for Progress here in Roanoke. Mr. Long will be assisting with the regional transportation planning and programming efforts, including the Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan, the Transportation Improvement Program, Smart Scale, STBG, Border Studies, and many other initiatives. So when you get a chance, let's welcome William as the newest member of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission staff. Next item is I'd like to mention that we'll be recognizing Wayne and his official retirement at our annual fall meeting. I think that's scheduled for October. We will certainly keep you informed. And obviously, everyone attending the meeting today is certainly invited to that very special meeting. So I hope you will make plans to attend, and you can recognize Wayne in any way you see proper at that time. And then lastly, I do have a couple of certificates of recognition I'd like to present today. The first certificate is to Frederick Gusser from Roanoke City, and he's been a representative on the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission from 2017 to 2021. And of course, during that time, the commission has pursued a number of significant projects. So we want to thank him for his dedication and strong support of the regional commission during that time. We certainly appreciate your time. So our sincere thanks, and we will get a certificate to you. So thank you very much for your help. And then I'd also like to present a certificate of appreciation to the Honorable William D. Bestpitch. Certainly, the Regional Commission has pursued many projects since Bill has been active. He's certainly been an active member for quite a number of years. He has served as chairman in the past. He's also served on the nominating committee, the very important annual work program committee, the strategic planning committee, and several other very special committees such as the search committee. And he just has been a strong supporter of the regional commission and very active here in the Valley and actually throughout the region, and someone I consider a dear friend. So Bill, thank you very much for your support and all the hard work you've contributed to this region and to the commission over the years. There again, we do have a certificate for you, and we will get that to you. Okay, and with that, we will move on to the executive director's report. So Mr. Strickland, if you would please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet on pages 21 through 26, you'll see the Regional Commission's audit engagement letter. We're sharing that with you just to let you know that the auditors will be here in early August, checking out all the financials and other issues related to the commission, and they will make their report to you sometime in the fall. So just wanted you to be aware that the engagement letter has been signed. The second item, if you recall a few months ago, there are two things that we were interested in, and one was the actions of the Office of Management and Budget. And when they were proposing to change the definition or how metropolitan statistical areas were defined, and this would of course affected about 140 MSAs. We don't think it would maybe impact us, but it would certainly impact the Blacksburg metropolitan area, Lynchburg, Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, Stanton, I mean, other areas up and down, Western Virginia. Well, we found out that earlier in the spring or late winter, that the Senate it was introduced by Senator John Thune of South Dakota and Mark Kelly of Arizona to address those issues and to ensure that the OMB would not change the definition. So we would continue to maintain all the metropolitan areas, not only that we have in Virginia, but also throughout the country. The other issue was that was near and dear to our hearts is that the Census Bureau was going to change how they define urbanized areas. And for us, the main impact would be on the Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan Organization. Previously, they looked at density of people in an area, and they had to be, there could be jumps, I guess, in where and analyzing the densities of various populations. But OMB wanted to change it to housing, the density of housing units. Well, there's a lot more people sometime in housing than there are housing units out there on the landscape. So, and it would also, well, the main impact it would have is that there is the possibility that it could reduce the number of local governments participating in our TPO. And that would particularly be Montgomery County and Bedford County. They might both go off of the TPO. Now, if they define the urbanized area differently, I guess if for some reason we were to drop below 200,000, then we would no longer be eligible for surface transportation funding, block grant funding, which is what the TPO uses to help fund special transportation projects. So that I was talking to many organizations, by the way, are opposed to that change from the census. And lots of comments have been received by the census about not changing the definition. And to date, there has been no legislation filed, but I know a lot of organizations like we are associated with the National Association of Development Organizations, but also places like VML and VACO may have been, or NACO, and the League of Cities were also involved. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and I've asked them to keep our new executive director informed about changes and what would happen, because we'd hate to lose the two counties from our RVTPO area. But more importantly, we'd also we'd hate to lose any funding that we might now get from the Federal Highway Administration because they changed that definition. So that was an update on that, but we'll keep you informed as to what happens. We're hoping that the legislation, by the way, about the census, I mean, that the OMB proposal is defeated or move forward, and that proposal is defeated. And finally, I just like to take the opportunity to thank all the member governments in this region that recognize my retirement. There are lots of proclamations and resolutions about my retirement, about my service to this organization. It was very humbling to go out and hear all the nice things that folks said about not only the work I do for the region, but some of the work I've done for individual localities. So I do appreciate it. And I appreciate all the thoughts that the councils and the boards put into passing those resolutions and proclamations. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir, very much for that. By the way, I meant to mention this earlier when you called the roll. I'm not sure that he had an opportunity to call in, but I understand that Mr. Josh Hess plans to start attending our regional commission meetings. And of course, he's the Congressman Morgan Griffin's deputy district director. So we look forward to working with Mr. Hess. Wayne, thank you for that report. All right, this afternoon we have with us Dr. Paul Prince and Matt Cruikshank, and I understand they have some important information concerning the Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness. Who's going to go first, folks?
I guess I'll go first. We had there it is showing up. Okay. As you all know, we conduct the point in time survey every January, and that includes years when there are pandemics. So we did it this year also. We did have to change our methodology somewhat because we could not send out volunteers, which we usually had the physician assistant students from Radford University Carilion do the street count for us. And that was not going to be possible during COVID. So the two street outreach teams did the unsheltered count, and using going to the same sites because they participate every year anyway. So we had to make some adjustments. You should have a a copy of the full report, either in a hard copy or a link to it on your website. It is also on the Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness website. So we're going to give you some of the highlights of the count, but there's a significant amount of information contained in the report. So I hope if you are interested, you'll check those out. I'm going to turn it over to Matt for a few slides to tell you what some of our highlights were. Matt?
Yeah, great. Yep, thanks, Paula. So as Paula mentioned, we do our point in time count every year in January. So it's essentially just a one-night snapshot of homelessness in the community. So we use it locally to kind of gauge how well our system is functioning and reducing homelessness in the region. So this year we counted 250 total individuals that were experiencing homelessness in January, and we did the count this year on January 27th. So that was our point in time count night this year. So most of the folks, the vast majority of our folks were in emergency shelter. So about 95% of the total count, which was about 238 folks, were in emergency shelter. So we do really two components of the count. We count individuals that are in our shelter system, and then we count folks that are outside that are unsheltered. So this year we only counted 12 individuals that were staying outside. And that count each year really depends a lot on different factors, including weather. So this year, the night we did a count, the weather was really cold. We got some snow and ice that night. So we only found 12 folks outside this year. So that number was down, I think, about 60% from last year. So that fluctuates from year to year, and it's really largely dependent on weather. And then the pandemic obviously had an impact on our count this year too. So of everyone we counted this year in our point in time count, 14% were children under the age of 18. So we counted 35 children, and all of our children obviously were in shelter programs. We didn't count any families with children outside on our pit night. And then the vast majority were single adults over the age of 24. So about 84% of the total count were adults over 24. And then we did have 3 individuals that were between the ages of 18 and 24, which we categorize as youth, but they're essentially young adults between that 18 and 24-year-old cohort. And then this last bullet we did, we've kind of been measuring our progress since 2012. We implemented some really, I think, significant system level changes back in 2012, and we'll talk about that a little more on some other slides, but we've reduced the overall homeless count in the community by 55% since 2012. So a little more context, when we talk about the COC, our coverage area includes the Roanoke Valley plus Alleghany and Covington. So it's the Roanoke Valley plus the Alleghany Highlands, essentially. So most of our folks tend to be in the city, but we do have some unsheltered sites that we engage with folks in the county and Salem and some other localities in the COC coverage area. All right, we can go to the next slide. And then these bullets are just kind of some quick points on what we counted with our subpopulation. So we really focus a lot of our housing efforts on 4 different subpopulations. So families, veterans, youth, and individuals experiencing chronic homelessness. So those are our really 4 priority populations. So we really gauge our progress in reducing homelessness amongst those populations each year with our count. So this year we had 27 veterans that were homeless on the pit night, which was about a 7% reduction over last year. All of our veterans were in households without children, so we didn't count any homeless veteran families this year. We did have 2 veterans that were staying outside and 7 that were identified as chronically homeless. So with chronic homelessness, folks have to have a significant homeless history where they've been homeless for at least 12 months or more, or have 4 episodes over 3 years that the cumulative number of months over those 4 episodes is 12 months or more over 3 years. So there's that homeless history component, and then they also would have to have a disability or a disabling condition to meet the chronic homeless definition that's set by HUD. So we counted 56 total individuals that were identified as chronically homeless this year, and 17 families with children this year, which is a 66 reduction since 2012, again, which is kind of our benchmark that we've used since we reoriented our service system back in 2012.
I'll
I think,
step in.
Paula, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll step in, and as you probably know, the rescue mission certainly houses the biggest number or the highest rate of our folks who are experiencing homelessness. But during the pandemic, over the last, 18 months, we had to change some of the ways that we housed folks in order to keep people safe. So you'll notice on this chart that 22% of the folks who were served in the last year were in a non-congregate hotel program. Again, we always have count the women who are staying in domestic violence shelters, although they do not have, their data is not included in the HMIS. Arch and Family Promise, two other programs, also had some of our folks. We had Arch provided the COVID quarantine shelter. And then of course we did have our a small number of people who were unsheltered. We learned a great deal over the last year about how to house people during such an extreme emergency that we've had. We had a little bit of a rocky start, but generally, I really want to thank all the people in the community who helped providing services and were so supportive of our folks during the pandemic. It really was a lot smoother than other areas in the country. We have about 20 people left still in the hotel program. They will be transitioning to housing by June the 30th. And then we'll go from there. Matt?
This slide just kind of is we tried to align our strategic planning work through the COC with the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. So there are several goals in the federal plan. If you want to go to the next slide, I think we've got a highlight of each of the goals. And it really breaks down by our priority population. So that's why we really focus on these priority groups. So the first goal of the federal plan is to end homelessness among veterans. Goal 2 is to end chronic homelessness for people with disabilities. Goal 3 is to end homelessness amongst families with children. And the fourth goal is to end homelessness overall for adults or individuals. So kind of under each goal, we put our progress in our COC in achieving those goals since 2012. So we've reduced veteran homelessness by about 62%, the same with chronic homelessness. Family homelessness, we've reduced by 66%. And then overall homelessness went from 561 back in 2012 to 250 this year. So we've reduced overall homelessness in the community by 55%. And a lot of that work was the reorienting of our service system that I mentioned. So we implemented really housing focused strategies that are really designed to get folks out of shelter and off the streets as quickly as possible and into permanent housing. And then to follow up and provide supportive services to support folks and ensuring they maintain stability once they're housed. So we implemented a community-wide rapid rehousing structure back in 2012 that's a coordinated process with all of our shelter providers and our outreach teams to connect folks in our system to housing as quickly as possible through rapid rehousing. So that was a totally really new service model that we implemented in 2012. So that's been really a key tool for us as a community in reducing homelessness kind of overall, but really particularly amongst these priority populations. And then we've reallocated some funding to increase permanent supportive housing options to target folks that are chronically homeless that have really a high need for services. We've expanded the number of permanent supportive housing units we've had to support that population. So just focusing more on housing and the permanent housing solutions to homelessness has really been key, and making sure all of our programs are on the same page and really working towards that same goal. Okay, we can move on to the next slide, I think. I think I'll take this one. So this is just a couple of quick concluding points about the point in time count this year. So overall homelessness decreased by 9.4% over last year. So last year we counted 276. We were down to 250 this year. And then again, the trend since 2012, we've had a reduction of about 55% since 2012. The number of homeless families this year decreased by about 29% over last year. The number of homeless children under 18 decreased by 5.4%. The number of veterans decreased by 10%. The number of homeless youth decreased by 81%. It's a small number, so the percentage is high, but we went from, I think, 12 youth last year down to 3 this year. So we didn't find many homeless youth between that 18 to 24-year-old group this year in our count. And then racial breakdown, homelessness among African Americans decreased by 17%, and whites, the number decreased by 4.5%. So we've kind of traditionally in our system seen overrepresentation of African Americans in our homeless system, which is pretty common around the country. But we've also looked at outcomes by race, so looking at how long folks stay in our system, and then how folks are getting served through our housing programs. And really the outcomes are more equitable than kind of the overrepresentation of people of color in our system in general compared to the region at large. So we really focus on kind of how equitable our system functions and making sure that we're serving folks equitably based on race and other factors. So that's something we highlighted this year. And then chronic homelessness did increase by about 27%. So I think on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we've seen folks staying longer in our system. So our shelter system, folks have stayed, had longer lengths of stay. And a lot of it, I think, can be contributed to the pandemic with things being shut down and folks having difficulty getting to the DMV to access IDs, getting out into the community to look at apartments, just the low turnover with eviction moratorium. We haven't seen many vacant units, so there's really affordable housing need in the community. So kind of all of those factors have contributed to the increase in our chronic homeless numbers this year. But all the other populations, we really continue to see progress other than the chronic homeless.
So in the next year, we plan to, the Interagency Council and the COC plan to certainly review our COVID-19 response, and also to put into place some policies should we need to use this kind of a response in the future. As Matt said, we have to address the increases of stay in the shelters, and also to address the issues that might be surrounding the decrease in the number of people who are in the shelter. We also have significant more funding that we're going to be able to allocate to resources in the community to address some of these issues. So that's also on our agenda. And we really need to start looking at policies that will increase affordable housing stock. And certainly that's for some of the members of the Interagency Council on Homelessness are really working in that area. So we plan to certainly address that. And we also know that once evictions, the moratorium on evictions is gone, and the increased unemployment insurance is gone, and some of the other supports that our folks have had, once that is gone, we're not really sure what we're going to see. So the numbers may very well increase. I would be very surprised if they did not. So this is what we are going to be looking at in the next year. And I think we have certainly a significant amount on our plate. So at this point, if you have any questions, as I say, the full report is on our website. But if you have any questions, Matt or I would be delighted to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. It's very important and quite eye-opening. Commission members, do you have any questions or comments? All right, if not, again, thank you folks very much, and we look forward to your reports. It's a very important piece of information, so thank you for that thorough report.
Well, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share this information. Very much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate you being with us this afternoon. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the executive committee report, and actually the report that concerns the proposed budget for year 2022. The executive committee did review the budget, and by the way, I hope you've had an opportunity to look over the budget once again. And of course, that information is on pages 27 and 28 of the packet. The executive committee does recommend that the proposed budget for 2022 as presented be adopted. Are there any questions or comments concerning the budget? If not, we will entertain a motion to adopt the budget as presented.
I move that we adopt the budget as presented.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Who
Any
made the
comments?
second, Mr. Chairman? Who made the second?
I did.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, yeah. All right, if there are no questions or comments, we will move on to the roll call for that. Please, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Clinton,
Yes.
Mr. Billy Martin,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Dean Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker. Mr.
Sorry,
Best-
yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Mr. Bestfitch? Mr. Bestfitch? Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Dr. Stanko Downey?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Saunders?
Aye.
Mr. Unruh?
Yes.
Mayor Marshall? Mayor Marshall? Yes. Mayor Gross?
Yes.
The motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. We certainly appreciate that. And thank you, committee, for that important vote. And with that, we'll ask our committee chair, nominating committee chair, Mr. Billy Martin, for a report concerning the nominating committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The nominating committee did meet. We discussed a number of possible candidates, and we came up with the following two individuals for chair and vice chair. We are recommending or nominating Mr. Phil North, representative of Roanoke County, for chair, and we recommend Mayor Pam Marshall, who is the Clifton Ford Town representative.
Okay, thank you, sir, very much for that report. So we'll open up the election, and first I would like to ask the commission if there are any other nominations for these two positions. Hearing none, we will officially close the nominations. And you've heard a report of Mr. North, pardon me, that Mr. Martin made. And also we need to add to that, there are two appointments, and it has been recommended that Mr. Dean Martin continue as the treasurer. And of course, Mr. Holmes would be nominated for secretary. So first of all, any comments or questions? If not, I'm sorry, was there a comment there? If not, we will entertain a motion to elect the individuals that have been nominated for these positions.
Mayor Gross, I make a motion that we accept the recommendations of the nominating committee for our 2022 officers.
I'll second.
Okay, I think that motion was by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Tucker. Wayne, if you would call the roll, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Clinton,
I vote yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes,
Kelly Martin,
yes, sir.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Dean Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Bestfitch. I think Mr. Bestfitch is no longer with us. Okay.
Right.
Ms. Moon Reynolds,
Yes.
Dr. Stanko Downey,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Saunders,
Aye.
Mr. Unruh,
Yes.
Mayor Marshall,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Well, we will
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Wayne. And we want to congratulate those folks and certainly look forward to working with all of you. An exciting time to serve the region, I think. And with that, we'll move on to our public hearing for this afternoon. I will officially open the public hearing, and we'll start with a report from staff. I think Eddie has that report. And after that, we will receive any comments from the public or commission members. So Eddie, if you would, please, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A short presentation, hopefully I can get to it. As many of you know, the Regional Commission is the coordinating agency for the Economic Development Administration's Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. We do an annual update each year. We do a major update every 5 years. We did a major update last year. So this year's was a fairly short update. Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy is a 5-year plan for economic development projects in the area. A lot of these that we look at are things that can be funded through the U.S. Economic Development Agency or Administration, excuse me. The district, RVARC has been a economic development district since January of 2017. Many of the other regional commissions across the country, as you can see on the map, are also economic development districts. This designation gives us more opportunities to work with some of the other federal agencies such as HUD, ARC, Federal Highways, organizations like that. It also impacts some grant applications. Many of the other agencies that provide funding for projects, if localities are claiming that there's an economic impact or they need to show that their project is a economic development priority for the region, they use the CEDS for that purpose. We always like to note that Franklin County and town of Boone's Mill and Rocky Mount are both covered by the West Piedmont PDC Economic Development District. So the work that Rocky Mount is doing and the work that Franklin County is doing down at Summit View and some of their other projects are covered by that CEDS document. Some of the EDA investments in the region, and there's in just this past year, Valley's Innovation Council received almost $1 million in grant funds as part of a partnership with RAMP to work with their entrepreneur system. Allegheny County just last month received the announcement for $1.1 million in EDA CARES Act recovery assistance for the Jackson River Scenic Trail. And Franklin County received $4.7 million to support the development at Summit View Business Park. So working with EDA has definitely paid off for the region. 2021 document revisions, of course, updated demographics and economic development data. This year at our CEDS strategy committee's urging, we included the recent housing studies that includes Allegheny Highlands, the Roanoke County study that was done a few years ago, and the Roanoke Valley housing study that was just completed this past, I guess, adopted this past winter. We updated project listings. For those of you that are familiar with the CEDS document, you know that there are over 100 projects listed. In the past, we haven't really selected priorities. This year, at the urging of our chairman, Mike Stovall, who's the Vinton town representative, and Mr. Mahoney from Roanoke County, the CEDS committee did do a regional priority list of projects, which is good. It gives us and the committee something to focus on. Some of the items considered during the project list development, of course, ongoing projects, existing projects from other funding sources such as Smart Scale, Go Virginia, some of the work that's being done in opportunity zones. Of course, looked at other funding sources. EDA doesn't want to be the only person at the table funding projects, so we always consider things like Appalachian Regional Commission, CDBG funds, Virginia Housing, VDOT, USDA Rural Development. Like I said, project list has over 100 projects. We got it down to 7 priority projects this year. I believe Mr. Mahoney said something to the effect at one of the meetings that if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. And we really need to focus on a smaller number. We didn't remove any of the projects from that long list, but we did select 7 sort of overall projects to have the committee and staff focus on over the next year. These are expanding broadband access across the greater region, implementation of the recommendations from the Regional Career and Technical Education Center study, additional flights and runway capacity at the Roanoke Blacksburg Regional Airport, Allegheny and Covington site developments under the joint revenue sharing agreements. I believe that's 7 or 8 different sites. Woodhaven Technology Park, which is a regional project, along with the related transportation network improvements. Explore Park, the joint efforts by Roanoke County and Bedford. I'm not familiar with that one. They're looking at a new access road into Explore Park on the Bedford side, in addition to, I guess, the build out of the Explore Park master plan and implementation of the recommendations from the regional housing studies, which of course is multiple projects, but it's a little more focused than what it's been in the past. We do have a public review and comment period. There was a 30-day review period required that took place beginning back in the middle of May. The only real changes we had were from Roanoke County and the town of Buchanan had been working together on some economic development or some possible economic development projects, looking at redeveloping some sites there in the town of Buchanan, one being the old Grondike site, which is a former factory site, the Glorama site, which is a retail building downtown in the former Buchanan High School redevelopment and reuse. We're going to include those under the Botetourt County, I guess the Botetourt County section in the project listings. Those were really the only changes that were received from outside the office, other than fixing a few typos. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for the presentation and staff report. I guess following the public hearing, there's also a resolution to be considered on page 31 of the agenda package. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Eddie, thank you very much. We appreciate that report. Have you received any public comment, or has anyone signed up to speak on this subject?
No, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
not that we know of.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commission members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, I will officially close the public hearing for today. Move on to the next item. And of course, it's the same topic. Commission, you have before you a resolution which would in fact approve the CEDS information, CEDS resolution as we've heard presented this afternoon. Any comments, questions? If not, we will entertain a motion.
Move the resolution.
Okay.
Second.
We have motion by Mrs. Moon Reynolds, second by Mr. Tucker. Wayne, please call roll.
Mr. Clinton,
Aye.
Mr. Billy Martin,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Dean Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Bestfitch, I think, is no longer with us. Okay. Ms. Moon Reynolds,
Yes.
Dr. Stanko Downey,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Saunders,
Aye.
Mr. Unruh,
Yes.
Mayor Marshall,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes.
The motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to next item, which is other business. This applies to any other official business. Is there anything else to come before the commission this afternoon? All right. If not, we will move on to comments from the commission members. And I understand that Mayor Pam Marshall has something this afternoon she'd like to comment on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to read from the town of Clifton Forge, well, the Clifton Forge Council, a resolution honoring the service and career of Wayne G. Strickland on his retirement as Executive Director of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission. Whereas on March 25th, 2021, Wayne G. Strickland announced his retirement as Executive Director of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission effective June 30th, 2021, after 42 years of service to Botetourt County and the region. And whereas Mr. Strickland earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in political science and geography from Georgia State University in 1972 and 1974 respectively, and in 1979 earned a Master of City Planning degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And whereas in 1979, Mr. Strickland joined the Regional Commission, then known as the 5th Planning District Commission, as Regional Planner. And whereas in 1981, he was promoted to Chief of Land Use and Environmental Planning. And whereas in 1987, Mr. Strickland became Executive Director of the Regional Commission and has served in that capacity for 34 years. And whereas many key regional initiatives such as the Greenway Commission, Western Virginia Water Authority, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the Partnership for a Livable Roanoke Valley, and the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority benefited from Mr. Strickland's support during his tenure and have been supported by the Regional Commission in numerous ways since their inception. And whereas during his time at the commission, Wayne has participated in numerous business and civic activities in the Roanoke Valley, Alleghany region, such as serving as a board member of the Roanoke Blacksburg Technology Council, the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce, Freedom First Credit Union, the Roanoke Valley chapter of Habitat for Humanity, the Cabell Brand Center, the Council of Community Services, the Roanoke Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Arts Council of the Blue Ridge. And whereas Mr. Strickland also assumed leadership roles in various professional organizations during his tenure as executive director, including serving as a member of the board of directors for the National Association of Development Organizations, chairman of the Southeast Regional Directors Institute, president of the Development District Association of Appalachia, president of the Rural Planning Caucus of Virginia, president of the Southwest Virginia chapter of the American Society for Public Administration, vice president of the Virginia chapter of the American Planning Association, and second vice president of the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Clifton Forge Town Council expresses its sincere appreciation to and honors the outstanding service and career of Wayne G. Strickland in his role as Executive Director of the Roanoke Valley Alleghany Regional Commission. And be it further resolved that the Clifton Forge Town Council extends its best wishes to Mr. Strickland for a happy retirement and in all his future endeavors. This was signed June 8th, 2021 by Mayor Pamela Marshall, Vice Mayor Jeff Irvin, and council persons Robert Umstead, Ronald Goins, and Carl Wolf. And this is just a small snapshot of Mr. Strickland's career. Godspeed, Wayne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say we've been needing a bridge in Covington for safety purposes.
What? Excuse me, there are people here.
Yeah, there are people here. That's exactly right. And we're glad that you're here. I just want to thank you for your leadership and your friendship over the years. It's been an honor to work with you. I have a couple of small tokens of our appreciation for what you've done over the years. A plaque for both the staff and the commission. And of course, we're keeping in mind we still want to celebrate in October. We just didn't want you to walk out to the building today without something. This says, presented to Wayne Strickland, Executive Director, in recognition of your steady leadership, exceptional service, and dedication to the Roanoke Valley Regional Commission. And we also have feedback. We know that you like to. We know that you like to collect pins. So we have a very special pin that we've got for you, and we certainly hope that you will enjoy that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We also have Mr. Billy Martin here this afternoon.
Hello, Wayne Strickland, sir. I ditto everything that he said, but I have a resolution here from Botetourt County. And I'd like to say, you know, that we too appreciate your many years of service and all that you've done to the locality, the region.
I got you on video here.
Oh, but you know, we appreciate all you've done, and I've certainly appreciated the years I've been here working with you. traveling with you and learning from you. I really enjoyed it. So let me read this proclamation here from Botetourt County. It says, whereas on March 25th, 2021, Wayne G. Strickland announced his retirement as Executive Director of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission, effective June 30th, 2021, after 42 years of service to Botetourt County and the region. And whereas Mr. Strickland earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in political science and geography from Georgia State University in 1972 and 1974, respectively, and in 1979 earned a Master of City Planning degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And whereas in 1979, Mr. Strickland joined the Regional Commission, then known as the 5th Planning District Commission, as the Regional Planner. And whereas in 1981, he was promoted to Chief of Land Use and Environmental Planning. And whereas in 1987, Mr. Strickland became Executive Director of the Regional Commission and has served in that capacity for 34 years, which I think is a record in the state. I'm pretty sure it is. And whereas many key regional initiatives, such as the Greenway Commission, Western Virginia Water Authority, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the Partnership for a Livable Roanoke Valley, the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority, benefited from Mr. Strickland's support during his tenure and have been supported by the Regional Commission in numerous ways since their inception. And whereas during his time at the Commission, Wayne has participated in numerous business and civic activities in the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany region, such as serving as a board member of the Roanoke Blacksburg Technology Council, the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce, Freedom First Credit Union, the Roanoke Valley Chapter of Habitat for Humanity, the Cable Brand Center, the Council of Community Services, the Roanoke Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Arts Council of the Blue Ridge. And whereas Mr. Strickland also assumed the leadership roles in various professional organizations during his tenure as Executive Director, including serving as a member of the Board of Directors for the National Association of Development Organizations, Chairman of the Southeast Regional Directors Institute, President of the Development District Association of Appalachia, President of the Rural Planning Caucus of Virginia, President of the Southwest Virginia Chapter of the American Society for Public Administration, Vice President of the Virginia Chapter of the American Planning Association, and second Vice President of the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions. I don't have to take a breath after all that. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere appreciation to and honors the outstanding service and career of Wayne G. Strickland in his role as Executive Director of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission. And be it further resolved that the board extends its best wishes to Mr. Strickland for a happy retirement in all of his future endeavors. And this is signed by our Chairman of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, Dr. Scott Horn. Congratulations on your retirement, and we certainly hope you enjoy it. Now, our county administrator couldn't be, okay? So he sends you a Botetourt County shirt. Wow. And he also sends you a Botetourt County hat. Now, we know as Executive Director, you were not able to promote any one locality. But since you're retired and you've got the hat and shirt,
I can tell you what I do. I wear everything off.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll get to a event and have you come to Roses. It's been a good time working with you.
It has been fun, hasn't it? It's been a good trip.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to get you a load of those tickets.
Well, they'll be it. They'll be tickets.
So I guess we need to close the meeting from up here.
Did you want to introduce Gwen Mason? Senator Gaines on?
Did you do that? Lisa?
Yes, I'm pleased to see Gwen Mason with us today, Senator Kane's office. And Gwen's been really
useful to us, and she's a good contact person. She's one of the people we contact about the office management budget issues. So we're glad to have you with us today.
That's very kind of you, Wayne. And I was going to ask Chairman Gross, after all those nice things were said about you, if there would be time on the agenda for rebuttal. But hearing none, I will. But Wayne, congratulations to you. We're all so proud of you. And thank you for letting me join you today. And I know we'll have time in the fall to really lay it on you. So Godspeed, friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that. And as you mentioned, there will be time in the fall. So Wayne, congratulations. Are there any other comments this afternoon? If not, we will, and we do look forward to everyone attending the meeting in the fall so that we can celebrate properly and congratulate you. So congratulations once again.
I appreciate it.
If there's nothing further, we will adjourn the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission meeting this afternoon. Thank you, folks. God bless.
Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you.